Hi everyone, it's Jann, and I'm here with a quick Valentine tutorial, and I'm focusing on embossing on this card. Really a couple of techniques, working with embossing pastes and stencils, a really hot trend right now, and then doing some multicolor embossing to create the multicolored love on as the focal image. Now, embossing paste is a hot trend right now, and I've used modeling cream to create this stencil, but I'm going to show you something that kind of excites me because you know I love when I can show you how to use something that you already have in your stash, and it's using those dimensional paints that we have. And you probably have some in your stash, but it's great to find another use for them, right? So I am going to use this Tim Holtz stencil, and I'm going to use some painter's tape to kind of hold it down and in place. One of the things I loved is because if you're like me, you have like 87 different colors of those little squiggle bottles. You know, back when we used to paint t-shirts, we used them. We've used them for all kinds of things, kind of substituting our liquid pearls and that sort of thing. But again, you might even try this with liquid pearls. When we get on into this, I'm going to show you 2 or 3 other things that I have used to do this same technique. You're going to love it because you're going to grab some things that you already have. You want to make sure that your stencil is tight to your paper. The reason that I chose to do this is I wanted a little tone on tone. So I'm using a very similar pink color to the cardstock that I have, and I'm using my really expensive stencil embossing tool, which is a key card from a hotel. I just put a good amount of that dimensional paint. It's a little thicker. That's why it works great for this. It's a little thicker than what you would get with just regular paint, but you could probably mix some paint in with this if you were trying to get a particular color. And you just want to scrape it across. That the stencil kind of does the work for you, but you don't want to push too much because it is fluid and it will seep underneath your stencil. So using a large edge spatula or a key card like this actually helps you kind of keep it a little cleaner because you're putting even pressure over the whole thing. So once I have done that, I lift an edge. I leave that end in place because I'm probably going to go back and do 2 or 3 more while I have it there. But look how cool. And because that dimensional paint is really shiny, you actually end up with what almost looks like patent leather. Very cool effect. You can see I also did it with black. You see I have the big bottle of the black. I always have some of that on hand. Turned out totally cool. I'm going to come back in another video and show you what I did with this one, but it just is so cool. You can see I finally decided I can just put it right on my little tool there. Again, just don't mess with it too much because it will kind of ooze out into it. But particularly with this stencil, which is a distressed argyle kind of thing, diamond pattern, or harlequin pattern, it works pretty well. Even the little ragged stuff looks like it's supposed to be there. Look how shiny it is. Love this. Love, love, love. It gives you that dual tone. Now, I'm going to show you another one, and I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of a view here. I did some stamping onto some craft cardstock, and you want to do any of your seasoning or distressing with ink prior to this next step. But I'm going to show you what I used because, again, I just went kind of hunting through my paints and everything just to see what else I could use to do this kind of hot trend right now, which is to use your stencils and embossing paste. And I'm using the exact same stencil. You'll notice that the pink kind of, I left it on a little bit long. It hasn't hurt the stencil at all. It's stained it. But if you clean it really quickly, it won't cause you any troubles. Now I'm going to come back and show you what I did with this piece in another video, but I thought I would just show you all the different things that I tried this technique with, just so you could get an idea of some things that you could do. Because you know how I love saying you don't have to use what I used, right? So this is just another thing where I want you to go look and see what you have. You know me and my distress crackle paint. Love it, and it works great. If you put it on thinner, you're going to get little cracks. If you put it on a little thicker, you're going to get heavier ones. And I just used a little spatula there to get some out. And I found that because I was going to actually need that spatula to get it in and out, that it was just easier to use that than trying to get into that jar with my key card. But you could use that same thing. Again, we're just using a really nice sweeping motion, and you'll know you have it about the right thickness if when you scrape it across, it actually has cleaned off most of the surface of the stencil and just left the paste or the crackle paint or that dimensional paint. I'm telling you, this may be my favorite one. I don't know. I love them all. Just clearly went to town a little bit. But you can see, I mean, even if it had just dried clear, but then when you see that crackle, is that not crazy good? Crazy, crazy, crazy good. And then I've gone back and used some distress stains on it. I'll show you that video here in a bit. But I also want to show you one other thing. If you don't have a lot of stencils, think creatively. And I went and cut a few on my silhouette. Just set them up for, I think I did 5.5 by 5.5 so that they would cover a full card front. Ended up with several of them. It's Valentine's. I always try to do at least one animal print card. And so this one, I created this zebra pattern, and I'm going to actually use some of that embossing paste because, oh my stars, it was so cool. Now, when you're doing this kind of technique, see, it's that Faro Effects. It's by Viva Decor, I believe is what it is. And this actually is kind of a grainy, I don't know how to describe it. It's gray and it's grainy. And just, it ended up being a really cool thing. The deal is when you're using these paper ones, make sure that you use a little bit thicker cardstock to start with. You're probably only going to be able to use it once, maybe twice. But again, you could go cut another one. And they don't want to lay as flat, so I just kind of am a little more careful about the direction that I put the paste down in. Once you've got it down, it stays pretty well. And then you can go back and kind of scrape things off. Loved how this turned out. When you're working on either creating a stencil that you're going to work with this or putting it onto cardstock, I really recommend using a little bit heavier cardstock as the base, because again, when you're putting wet media on it, you don't want something that's really thin. You may actually want to use some of your thicker cardstock. But look how cool that is. And I loved this because it's got kind of a shimmer to it. It's kind of an iron look. Now I'm going to go back and show you just a little bit of how I finished this card out, but I wanted you to see all of those really cool various things you can use doing the exact same technique. I'm going to use this paper tray ink with All My Heart stamp set, and it actually has that Love You, which is a single stamp, and then the LOVE are separate stamps, and I'm going to use those with different Zing embossing powders. And the 4 that I chose, because that is kind of a hot pink with that background is Raspberry Fizz paper tray ink cardstock, I think, and it just matched my that dimensional paint that I had. So I used apricot, grapefruit, rouge, and mustard Zing embossing powders. They're great opaque embossing powders when you are going to be, and you really want something that's really good and opaque when you're going to be embossing over black. So you saw I used my embossing buddy to just kind of make sure there was going to be no stray, because most of this is going to be covered with that stamp. And I'm going to use clear first so that we can make everything really shiny. I think with that kind of patent leather looking background, that having this heart be pretty shiny will be good too. So I'm using the clear embossing powder, which gives you kind of that tone on tone, which would be cool just by itself. But now I'm going to go in individually with each of the letters, and you do want to use your embossing buddy because your hands have touched it. It will help you get a really good impression. If you're doing multiple colors, I do them individually. Some people would put the powder on, go get stamp the next one, put that powder on. I like to be a little bit more of a purist. So I started with the color that I wanted to be the most in the background. That was my V, and I'm using rouge for that. And I'm going to then hit it with the heat gun. Won't make you watch all of that, but I'm going to do that, and then go on to the next color and just work my way through each of them. There were several times that I did need to use a little paintbrush just to clear things off, but this actually goes really, really, really quickly when you do this. And I think it just gives you a great effect because you've got really bright colors, which on black is kind of hard to do. So when I want to do bright colors on black, I tend to want to go with embossing powders to do that. And those Zing embossing powders they're by American Craft, I think, and they just are fabulous. They have a great variety of colors. Keeps you from having to have ink, all those different ink colors, because you can just use your Versamark ink pad. So I'm going to just pop this one up, do a little dimension there. That is a paper tray ink die. I think it's Limitless Layers Hearts, and it comes with that inside heart and then 3 or 4 different kind of edges. And now that has dried, it took about 45 minutes because it's pretty thin. I'm going to trim it down just to the width of that. And I'm going to offset it, kind of that rule of thirds. So I moved it over a little bit to the right, and I'm going to put our heart up there on the left. Just simple. I don't want it to hang off too far because I want to be able to put it through the mail. But I just think that's kind of a fun and fresh. If I had used maybe some turquoise with it, it would actually have been more of kind of a 50s vintage. But I just love how shiny everything is on there. That's one of the benefits of working with all those different products together. Just easy peasy. I've got some other Valentine things. These hearts I've learned how to do. I'm not a crocheter, but I did learn how to do them. And I do have a project with the zebra print that I want to come back and share. So leave me a comment if you would be interested in seeing how I did the crocheted hearts. If you have not subscribe. That way you can make sure and find out when I've posted a new video. And please follow me on Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have missed you guys. Good to be back with you. I hope you're having a great week, and be sure and save some time for creative play.